Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, it is the jaw-dropping testimony inside Sean Diddy Combs' trial. Cameras not allowed in the courtroom, but through AI, we can help show you what went down. Take a listen to this exchange between male strippers manager Daniel Phillip and Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey. That's James Comey's daughter. Keep in mind, the audio is AI, but the words are taken directly from the court transcript.
What did Cassie Ventura give you money for in and around 2012?
To have sex with her. We were standing in like a foyer, and she basically said it was her birthday and that her husband wanted to do something special for her. And so she asked me if I would mind rubbing baby oil on her and giving her a massage. And, you know, wherever things went from there, if, you know, based on how comfortable I was.
What was the man wearing?
A white robe with a bandana over his face and like a baseball cap on his head.
How, if at all, did Ms. Ventura refer to the man in the room?
As babe.
So when he spoke to you, whose voice did you recognize?
That was Sean Combs.
Had you heard Sean Combs' voice before?
Yes.
In what context?
In every form I've ever seen him in entertainment.
Across all of these encounters after the first one, who, if anyone, gave directions about how to engage in sexual activity?
Sean Combs did.
When you say you saw him hit her, who did you see hit whom?
Sean Combs hit Cassie. He, Mr. Combs, came out of the room and I just saw a bottle fly past her and hit the wall.
What kind of bottle?
It looked like a liquor bottle. And then he, Mr. Combs, walked over to her, to Cassie. He grabbed her by her hair and started dragging her by her hair into her bedroom.
Oh my, and that's just a little sampling of what's been shared. I'm going to bring in domestic violence expert and former law enforcement officer Claudia King. Claudia, what do you think when you hear this Escort's testimony corroborating Cassie's testimony?
I think it really gives credibility to what they're all saying, and then we have the video on top of that to corroborate. So I think it just lends all of them credibility, which is great for the case.
Right. You're exactly right, because when we saw Cassie's lawsuit filed, it was very stunning. There was even a warning on the lawsuit about how graphic the details were that the lawsuit entails. And, you know, many people may be looking at that going, I don't know, can I believe it? I mean, here, if you don't believe this, I can't understand why not. You have this independent witness corroborating, as you noted, we've got video of it. Tell me, Claudia, in terms of laying the foundation, we talked a little bit on the program yesterday about how to lay those building blocks in order to prove sex trafficking, transportation to engage in prostitution, and ultimately the racketeering conspiracy. How do you think the government is doing so far?
So far, so good. You know, I think they put the right witnesses in the right order to start the case. So, you know, they had one witness, then they brought in Mr. Phillip, so he was able to tell a great part of the story that's now being corroborated by Cassie. So I think she's really painting the picture of their relationship, the sexual acts that transpired, and now we're just going to build from there. So we got a long way to go, but I think the prosecution is doing a fantastic job with the way they've laid out the witnesses thus far.
Claudia, I think you're exactly right. Cassie seems very believable, and we've got a little clip of some of her AI testimony. So we put it together using AI. Here's what she said. Here we go.
Why did you continue to engage in freak-offs with Sean?
He would ask me. He would bring it up at random times. And I think, to a point, I just didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I didn't really know what no would be, or what no could turn into.
When you say you didn't know what no could turn into, what do you mean by that?
Making him angry, very honestly, also making him uncomfortable, that I knew this thing and that I no longer wanted to do it.
Claudia, where she says she didn't feel like she had a choice, as a DV expert, what does she mean by that?
She means that she knows what will happen, or what likely will happen, if she does refuse what he wants. And also, she is kind of leaning, giving us a little information about how she felt about herself. Again, she doesn't have a choice to leave. She feels like she doesn't have a choice to get away, so she doesn't have a choice other than to do what he's asking, but we know really telling her to do.
You know, you touched on this a little bit earlier. I think it's such an important point to underscore, as so many of us look at Cassie and think, my gosh, she is gorgeous and talented and smart and just has the world going for her. Inside, you said that's not how she felt. Tell us more why.
So she talked one time about being a people pleaser, and that's often what these abusers will look for. Somebody who has a people pleasing aspect or a little kind of chink in their armor that they can weasel their way into. So they begin to tear that person down. And so inside, that victim feels worthless because they're told they're worthless. They're told that nobody else will love you other than me. Nobody else will care about you. You are trash. Look at what you've done. You've had sex with these other men right in front of me. Who do you think you are? So he's telling Cassie what to do, and then he's turning right around and using it against her. So he's pulling on everything inside of her to bring her down. She has no self-esteem left, so she feels like, I'm not worth anything, so why would I leave?
Claudia, this insight is so helpful because while we can all envision the physical abuse, and the jury saw photos of her bruises and injuries to her beautiful face, I'm sure it was sickening to look at, to see that. But to visualize what you just described, the emotional, mental abuse, that's also a component with domestic violence, isn't it?
It's often the worst component and the most difficult to heal from. Bruises heal, broken bones heal, but those internal scars can take years, if ever, to really, really heal. I bet Cassie today, in her current relationship, apologizes way more than she needs to, because she still has that piece inside of her that feels responsible for everything and constantly says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's one thing that victims often do for a long time. So those emotional scars are really, really difficult to heal and are often worse than the physical.
Claudia, I could talk to you all day about this. You know, I've, from working in the domestic violence prevention movement, often heard survivors will say, look, like, I knew if I could just get through the beating wouldn't be so bad, but it was the mental torture in between that sometimes would drive me to feeling crazy. What's that like when someone makes you feel crazy?
It's crazy because you can't trust yourself anymore. You can't even trust your own intuition, your own judgment. And I experienced that myself when I finally decided to leave my relationship. I went to a therapist to ask her if I was making the right decision because I didn't trust my own at that point. So that's what victims often feel. They can't even trust their own insight, their judgment, their intuition. They feel that worthless and gaslit, and they just don't even know where to turn.
Can't even know if they're making a smart decision. This is so helpful.